There are announcements in baseball that land like ordinary news. Roster moves. Lineup decisions. Pitching rotations shuffled by necessity or strategy, or the quiet accumulation of a long season's wear and tear. The kind of information that analysts process and fans absorb, and the sport moves forward without breaking stride. And then there are announcements that stop everything. Not for a moment. Not for the length of a news cycle that refreshes and moves on within hours. 4 days. 4 weeks. Generating conversations that spread across languages and time zones and find their way into discussions happening in living rooms and press boxes and clubhouses from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Dave Roberts stood in front of the assembled media and said something that the baseball world had been waiting, with a patience that was beginning to fray at the edges, to hear confirmed. Shohei Ohtani would be pitching. Not eventually. Not at some undefined point in the season when the staff felt confident and the circumstances aligned and the moment felt right. At the start of the season. Those 5 words, "We'll use him at the start of the season," landed in the baseball world like a stone dropped into still water. The ripples moved outward immediately, and they have not stopped moving. Because this is not a minor pitching decision about a rotation spot on a major league staff. This is the return of the greatest two-way player in the history of professional baseball to the full expression of what he is. Hitter. Pitcher. Both. Simultaneously. At the highest level the sport has ever seen. The 2025 Los Angeles Dodgers just became something the baseball world has no existing framework to properly describe. And sitting alongside that seismic announcement, woven into the same conversation, connected by threads that the Japanese baseball world is pulling at with urgent intensity, is a different and equally charged story. The Japanese national team lost at the WBC. And the reasons why are now being discussed with a thoroughness and a frankness that is generating its own kind of buzz. A different kind. The kind that comes not from celebration but from honest reckoning. 2 stories. Both enormous. Both connected, not just by geography or by the Japanese players at their center, but by a deeper question about what it takes to perform at the absolute highest level when the world is watching and the pressure is complete. This is where those 2 stories meet. To understand why Dave Roberts' announcement hit the way it did, you have to understand what the baseball world has been carrying for the past 12 months. The knowledge that Ohtani was coming back to the mound. Not the hope. Not the optimistic projection based on recovery timelines and physical assessments and the careful language of medical professionals managing expectations. The knowledge, grounded in everything Ohtani has demonstrated about his approach to preparation, about his commitment to doing things completely and correctly, that when he returned to pitching, it would not be a cautious, limited, "let's see how this goes" return. It would be Ohtani. All of him. The arm that produced some of the most unhittable pitches a major league lineup had faced in the modern era. The preparation that borders on the obsessive in its thoroughness. The competitive core that has never once shown the baseball world anything resembling a half measure. All of it. Back. On a major league mound. The wait has been long enough that the baseball world had begun to feel it as a specific kind of anticipation, the kind that lives in the chest, that makes the news notifications worth checking, that gives spring training a different quality of meaning than it typically carries. And then Roberts spoke. "We'll use him at the start of the season. The wait is over." Dave Roberts is not a manager who speaks carelessly about his players' availability. He has navigated the particular complexity of managing a roster built around Shohei Ohtani with a thoughtfulness that the situation demands. He understands better than almost anyone outside of Ohtani's own inner circle what the full return means, not just for the Dodgers' competitive picture, but for the daily management of a pitching staff that now includes, at its very top, a player who requires a framework that no existing manual fully addresses. A two-way player returning from elbow surgery. Preparing to hit and pitch. At the start of a full major league season. There is no precedent for managing this correctly. There is no established template to follow. Roberts and his staff are navigating it in real time, making decisions based on information they gather day by day, balancing the competitive demands of a team built to win a championship against the physical realities of a player who is, despite everything he appears to be, a human body with limitations that must be respected. And Roberts, having assessed all of that, having watched Ohtani's preparation through the off-season and into spring training, having consulted with medical staff and pitching coaches and everyone whose input belongs in that conversation, stood in front of the media and said clearly, "The start of the season. That is a statement of confidence. Not just in Ohtani's physical readiness, though that is obviously its foundation, but in the preparation, in the process, in the approach that Ohtani has brought to this recovery from the very first day." Roberts has watched that approach up close. He knows what it looks like. He knows the difference between a player progressing through a recovery and a player who has moved through a recovery and come out the other side with everything intact. What he saw in Ohtani this spring told him something clear. He is ready. Take a moment to consider what the Los Angeles Dodgers look like when Shohei Ohtani is pitching. This is a team that already won a World Series with Ohtani contributing exclusively as a hitter. A team built with the depth and the quality that a franchise with Los Angeles resources and a front office operating at the highest level of analytical sophistication can construct. A team with Yoshinobu Yamamoto, confirmed opening day starter for the second consecutive year, anchoring a rotation that was already one of the most formidable in baseball before the Ohtani news arrived. Now add a pitching Ohtani to that picture. The lineups that will face the Dodgers in 2025 must prepare for Ohtani as a hitter on the days he is not pitching. They must study his tendencies, develop approaches, deploy defensive shifts, make strategic decisions about how to pitch to him across a full game. And then, on the days he takes the mound, those same organizations must prepare their hitters for one of the most diverse and deceptive pitching arsenals in the major leagues. The triple-digit fastball. The splitter that drops off a table. The slider that begins its path toward the strike zone before breaking away from it with a sharpness that hitters describe as almost unfair. There is no preparation that fully accounts for both realities simultaneously. This is what Dave Roberts confirmed with those 5 words. This is what the baseball world spent the day processing after the announcement. Not just that Ohtani is returning to pitching, but what that return means for a franchise that was already the most formidable team in the sport. And then there is the other story. Japan lost at the WBC. For a nation that had won the tournament in 2023 with a team that included Ohtani at the center of everything, that had delivered a final moment so perfect it seemed scripted, a strikeout of Mike Trout to close out a championship that the entire baseball world watched with its breath held, the 2025 defeat landed with a particular weight. Not just the loss. The manner of it. The discussions happening locally in Japan are not gentle. They are not the measured, diplomatic assessments of people trying to soften a difficult result with careful language. They are thorough. Honest. The kind of reckoning that a baseball culture as serious and as self-critical as Japan's produces when the results do not match the expectations. The questions being asked are pointed. Was the preparation sufficient? Were the right decisions made about roster construction and tactical approach? Did the team fully account for what the opposition had prepared? Were there moments, specific, identifiable moments, where different choices would have produced different outcomes? These conversations are generating buzz not because they are hostile or unfair but because they are genuine. Because Japanese baseball takes itself seriously enough to demand honest answers when the results fall short. And inevitably, because everything in Japanese baseball eventually connects back to this conversation, Ohtani's name is part of it. Not as a criticism. Not as a suggestion that his absence was the singular cause of the defeat. But as a frame of reference. As the standard against which the gap between what the team achieved and what it was capable of achieving is being measured. Here is where these two stories, the Dodgers announcement and the WBC reckoning, find their most honest connection. Preparation. The reason Dave Roberts can stand in front of the media and say confidently that Ohtani will pitch at the start of the season is not luck. It is not good fortune or favorable circumstances or the kind of recovery that simply goes smoothly because the injury was less serious than feared. It is Ohtani's preparation. The same preparation that has defined every stage of his career. The same approach to physical management, to nutritional discipline, to the meticulous daily work that does not attract cameras or generate highlights but builds, over time, the foundation that extraordinary performance stands on. Ohtani attacked his recovery the way he attacks everything. With specificity. With patience. With the complete absence of shortcuts that has characterized his approach since his earliest days in professional baseball in Japan. And the result that Dave Roberts witnessed in spring training and felt confident enough to announce publicly, is a player returning to full capability ahead of schedule and ready to contribute from the season's opening days. Now set that against the WBC reckoning. The discussions happening in Japan about the national team's defeat are circling, in various ways, around the same core question. Not talent, the talent was present. Not effort, the effort was genuine. The question is about preparation. About whether every available advantage was identified and pursued. About whether the standard of readiness that the tournament demanded was fully met by the individuals and the organization responsible for meeting it. It is the same question. Asked in two different contexts. Producing two very different answers. The announcement from Dave Roberts did something beyond confirming a pitching plan for the opening of the 2025 season. It reminded the baseball world, the entire baseball world, including the parts of it currently engaged in honest self-examination about the WBC defeat, what full preparation looks like when it is done without compromise. Ohtani spent 12 months recovering from elbow surgery. 12 months during which the mound was not available to him. 12 months during which a lesser competitor might have allowed some portion of the discipline to relax, might have told himself that the recovery was the priority and everything else could wait. Ohtani did not do that. He arrived at spring training in 2025 ready. And not just ready in the modest, cautious, let's see how it goes sense that the medical realities of elbow surgery might have justified. Ready to pitch at the start of the season. Dave Roberts saw it. The Dodgers organization confirmed it. And the baseball world received the announcement with the reaction it deserved. Not surprise, because those who have followed Ohtani closely enough know that this outcome, while extraordinary, is entirely consistent with who he is. But awe. The specific, quiet awe of watching someone do the thing they always do, at the level they always do it, and being reminded that some standards are simply beyond the ordinary reach of even the very talented. Spring training in Arizona. A manager standing in front of assembled media. 5 words that the baseball world had been waiting months to hear. We'll use him at the start of the season. And across the Pacific, a different conversation happening in a different tone, honest, probing, searching for answers in the aftermath of a tournament defeat that Japanese baseball is not willing to simply absorb and move past. 2 stories. Both enormous. Both, in their own ways, asking the same question. What does it take to be ready when it matters most? Ohtani's answer, built across 12 months of recovery, confirmed in the Arizona spring sun, announced publicly by a manager whose confidence is based on what he has seen with his own eyes, is the same answer he has always given. Everything. Every day. Without shortcuts. Without compromise. Without the small negotiations with comfort and convenience that ordinary preparation allows. Everything. The 2025 season has not yet fully begun. But in a spring training facility in Arizona, a manager just told the baseball world something that will define the conversation for months to come. Shohei Ohtani is back. All of him.